Hello everyone, welcome back once again. Please like and share this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. It's been a long time no see. Today I'm back with another interesting game from the Qatar Masters 2023. Uh, it's between I am Rudik Makarian, who's 19-year-old. I am from Russia, and Anish Giri does not need any introduction. So without further ado, let's get onto the game. Here Rudik has the white pieces and he opens with d4. Knight f6, c4 e6, knight f3, d5 and g3. It's a Catalan. And bishop b4 check. Bishop d2, bishop e7. The whole idea of this retreat variation is to provoke bishop d2 so that the knight does not get to d2. Bishop g2 and now castles. c6 here, queen c2, knight b d7, bishop f4, still theory, h6, rook d1, a5, knight c3, and now d takes c4, vacating the d5 square, and the black knight will jump on it, knight d2, and here knight b6 is also possible, defending the pawn for a bit longer, but Anish decides to play knight d5, targeting the bishop here, knight c4 and knight f4. Now Anish is the one having the bishop here, gf4 and knight f6, e3. However, this pawn structure isn't allowing black to push any of his kingside pawns, and you can see that after bishop d7, a3, the black bishops are badly restricted by the white pieces, and the white knights are very active. Even the white bishop can be a potential threat to the queen side. Bishop e8, rook ac1, and now king to h8. Anish has plans of his own. He's a fighter, and against a low-rated player, he's planning to go all in for the attack. Queen b3, queen c7, and now queen b6. Rudik offers a trade of queens, but Anish declines. Queen b8, and the threat here is a4, with plans of knight d7 or rook a6 trapping the queen. So queen b3, and now Anish doesn't repeat it. Of course, he wants to win. Rook g8, knight e5 here, centralizing the knight, and now bishop d6. This bishop still has some potential in comparison to the other bishop, but king h1 now, stepping aside from all the potential threats along the g file and planning to bring the rook on g1, knight d5, the second knight jumps to d5, and now knight e4. a4, gaining more space on the queen side, and in the act driving the queen away. Queen c2 and f6. Anish wants to get rid of this e5 knight, as it's really annoying and preventing any improvement in black's position on the king side. Knight d6, queen d6, knight c4, queen e7, and now we have f5. Whenever we have a weakness, we should try to trade it for a healthy component in the opponent's position, which is not a weakness. For example, in this case, white's double pawns are no longer a problem, as he's going to trade his f5 pawn for the healthy e6 pawn. Bishop f7, and now fe6, queen e6. But in return, now the black's light squared bishop gets some activity. Queen e4, again offering a trade of queens, and again Anish wants to play for the win, so queen d7, queen h4. For the time being, there is no threat to this queen, and it can create many potential threats on the king side. Rook a d8 and e4, driving the knight away, knight e7, and knight b6 here after queen c7, knight a4, you don't win the pawn actually because of bishop b3, and you have to lose the exchange. You might get this rook, for example, knight c5, bishop d1, knight e6, but you still don't want to go into it. It's very complex. So queen g3, taking a precaution and covering this b3 square to prevent any infiltration from the black bishop. Bishop c4, getting rid of the knight, rook c4 and b5. Rook c7, queen a7. Anish is targeting the d4 pawn, and now d5. Rudik is trying to create a passed pawn of his own. c5 and queen e3. Unfortunately for Anish now, the c5 pawn is lost. You just can't save it. If you save it, you have to pay a huge price. For example, the d6 pawn is going to be passed pawn, and other things you don't like to imagine. Knight g6, queen c5, winning the pawn, queen a6, queen c6, queen a7, and queen c5. It's not 3-4 repetition yet. Repeats, and a queen a6. Now Anish is willing to make it draw, hopefully, because his c5 pawn is lost and the d pawn is passed pawn. Bishop h3, covering the c8 square so that rook c8 isn't a problem. Knight f4, bishop f5, and now g6. Another tactic, d6. If gf5, then queen f5, and they're just simply too much threats. So queen 8 was played. Now if you move the bishop, you lose the e4 pawn, and it's in the same diagonal as white king, so you don't want to do that. Queen d4, defending the bishop tactically yet again, as if you take g takes f5, queen takes f6 check is there, and after rook g7, another thing, queen takes f6 check is the main move, and it wins the knight, so it saves the pawn and probably wins the game. And if you move the king forward, then there is simply rook c7 check and chessmate. So rook g7 was played, queen takes f6, and now king h7, gf5 transposes to the line that I just showed you before. Bishop g4, queen e4 check is a blunder here because of f3, and either the knight or the rook is lost. Queen can defend both of them at the same time. So rook f8, queen e5, defending the e4 pawn, h5, taking over the bishop, and now rook c7, completely ignoring the bishop. If you take on c7, then there is dc7, at g4. You can expect all kind of tactics here with the pawn on c7, and in this case it's rook d8. If takes, then queen e7 check, and you will promote the pawn to queen, and it's completely winning. Rook f7 was played, rook f7, rook f7, d7, queen d8, and now queen e8. It was in this position that Grandmaster Anish Giri resigned the game, as you can't just stop the promotion of the pawn. You have to either give up your rook or your queen. So I hope you enjoyed this video. See you soon in another video. Goodbye.